Welcome back to the channel, everyone. This is the Hoops Crew Summer Series. My name is Ben Reeve, and I am joined on the show again by the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Paul James. How you going, Paul?
The fly swatter.
The fly swatter
human
himself.
fly swatter I feel like I am tonight. It's getting ridiculous.
He's got mozzies everywhere. It's hot in old Melbourne town. And we're here for another episode of Summer Series, the very last episode of Summer Series for 2024. It's been fun, Paul. I've enjoyed it. I'm ready to get stuck into some AFL footy soon, but I'm going to enjoy this last episode here. So strap in. Let's get cracking, mate. First question. Well, let me start off by saying this whole episode is about entertainment in the AFL. Now, that'll encompass a range of different things, but you'll get a bit of a sense of what we're on about over the next few questions. So the first question for yourself, Paul, is there a state of origin appetite? Is there a place for it in the game? Should we bring it back? Should it be every 4 years? Where do you sit with state of origin footy?
I like the idea of some sort of, whether it's Vic versus Allies or whatever the model kind of needs to be. I really enjoyed that model, especially when it came back in the 2008-ish window.
You're probably right there.
Saw a little rendition. Back when Gaz was kind of peak of his powers, but still with the Cats.
Didn't play though.
Not quite at the peak of his powers, but
he didn't play that game though.
Yeah.
Selwood did.
Yeah, shit, he missed it. He was meant to be in it, but
he didn't play. Yeah, everyone else did. Cam Moon, he did. Stokes, he played. I think.
Yeah.
Friend of the show, Matt Stokes.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm all for the model. In recent years, we've seen the other states, like the representation of AFL from the other states, improve. So I wonder if it will always be feasible to continue to be Victoria versus another state, Victoria versus this. Actually, sorry, it might make more sense to be Victoria versus another state, the way other states are kind of trending with their output. Maybe bundle Queensland and New South together or something like that. Maybe Queensland, New South, and Tasmania in the future. But you've probably got enough output from South Australia and WA at this point to potentially justify that one. Because I almost think that the Allies team might be too powerful if you went down that path as well, where it's everyone versus Victoria.
Still 22 versus 22, but I reckon.
I feel like the quality of output out there is improving such that now every other state versus Victoria might actually be a bit lopsided. And that's fine, but I think it maybe just shows that model's not necessarily the sustainable one for eternity.
People, if you want to see Paul come up with a list of his best Allies team, let us know in the comments below. I'll give Paul some homework if there's enough interest in that.
Sure. Yeah, actually, I'll create a Vic and an Allies team.
Yeah, exactly. You got to just figure out where everyone's from. But yeah, that'll be very interesting. I'd still like to see Victoria play South Australia, or that's pretty much it. Western Australia, maybe. But I think an Allies game versus Victoria.
WA people just find something to complain about.
Oh, they always complain about everything. Anyway, but yes, I'd love to see our boy Phoenix line up in his South Australian Guernsey, get out there and have a crack. What about a slight variation of the state of origin, the international rules? That was I don't know if that was coming in to replace state of origin. It's a very, very different game to footy, clearly. The players enjoyed the junket to Ireland every now and then and all that, but you see that coming back at any point in time?
Once we learn to stop punching Irish blokes, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah, but they did it to us first. Surely, no.
And look, there's enough of them in our game now that I think you probably can't quite. You'll pay more of a social price these days if you decide to swat an Irishman. Hell, it could be a teammate of yours.
Exactly. Well,
the way things go.
We've got 3 of them at the moment, haven't we?
Yeah, I don't think we'll have any
in the men's game, at least.
Ill-disciplined Geelong players swatting Irish blokes, but
we've got 3 in the women's game as well. I don't know if they've all played at the same time, but might have been one game where they all played. But goodness me. I'd love to see it again once, but I don't know. I want to back to that first question. I want to see state of origin footy, and similar to what we talked about on another episode, Paul, the pre-grand final bye. If we have a pre-grand final bye, I'd love to see all the non-competing players that aren't in the grand final put their hand up for a state of origin game before they go off and enjoy their summer break. It would be nice to see.
Look, I would rather state of origin over international rules, and that's because I think when it comes to international rules, there is that country v country thing, and so it brings out the competitive edge. Whereas I think a state of rules, you're more likely to get an all-star weekend, and we consistently make these NBA comparisons, but it's a bit of a. It's far more fun in games when it comes to East v West in that thing. Like people are just trying to make it rain. No, the defense is non-existent, and so
Don't worry
I
about
guess
defending. Just let him kick. Just let him run through you into
the tackles
50.
they're probably gonna nothing more than
No.
try and almost touch football
Yeah.
because no one wants to get hurt, and totally respect him for doing so. I think if the AFL, the fans are kind of expecting that game to be not necessarily representative of what an actual game would be, and that it is going to be a very casual, light, not non-physical affair, then I think we'll be fine. I think we can do it, and I think the clubs are more likely to put their players up. But if the expectation is it's bash crash, it's the intensity of a normal game, clubs aren't going to want to do it because the positioning of when that game is and what it could do to an entire season.
120 minutes of bash and crash, but maybe like you said in the NBA, it's just a bit more friendly, and it's the same with the EJ Whitten game. We'll come to that in a sec, but maybe it's like take it easy, have a laugh, have a giggle, enjoy just being there. But in that last quarter, let it rip, just go hammer and tongue in that last quarter. You've got to manufacture the score a little bit as well because what is it, 35 goals each at that point at 3/4 time, and then we've got to try and kick 50 goals, all that sort of stuff. We just want a goal fest, don't we, in these exhibition type games? We talked about the EJ Whitten game just before. Do people still care about that game? Did it have its time, and is it time to retire it? I still think there's a place for it. I think it's where you put it. And again, I bring it back to that thing again. Pre-grand final is probably a good spot for me. Like Friday night before the granny or the week before the grand final, to me, that seems like a really good spot. I wouldn't want to bury it somewhere else. I don't even know where it is at the moment. That's how much relevance it sort of has for me.
I like the EJ Whitten game. I'm just checking to see when the 2023 edition was.
Yeah.
I'm not finding it easily, but
that's okay. Doing your research in the background.
Yeah, trying, but I'm not having a lot of luck at the moment. Maybe it didn't happen.
I don't know if it did.
I mean, look, recent highlight for me was seeing Jimmy Bartel roosting a taunt from the centre square for a goal, which was awesome.
Strawny's the highlight.
Part of that, I mean, that was awesome, but it was also part of the problem. We got a few too many somewhat modern day players coming through and taking it just a tad too seriously.
I know.
We need more Strawny style stuff. We need more Hutchie just somehow kicking miraculous goals and doing whatever. Like, we need more of that sort of stupid stuff.
But half the time, guys are pulling hamstrings and they just can't go anymore. And I'd love to see an EJ Whitten style.
September 28, 2023. Does that mean it was after?
Maybe. No, it would have been just beforehand. It was the 29th. Maybe it was the day before. That's interesting.
It was a Thursday apparently. But
it's Thursday night. Okay. What did they do Friday night? Absolutely nothing.
Probably. Oh yeah, because then the grand final's on Saturday the 30th. Right.
Play it at Etihad Stadium or play it. I don't know, for God's sake, play it at Perth or something. I don't care. Not that everyone's making the trip over to Victoria, though, aren't they? So, look,
I think your main thing is the salient one. The timing is the key, and I think in and around grand final is the right way to go. Yep. Bearing it on the Thursday night, probably not right.
No,
have it on the Friday. Have it at Marvel. That way you're not messing around with the MCG surface.
Maybe have it as a curtain raiser to the State of Origin game, which is treated the same way. A bit of fun, a bit of hit and giggle kind of stuff. To have them back to back, maybe. I don't know, something like that.
Have your State of Origin right before the grand final.
Yeah, exactly.
The only people not playing are the ones who are playing in the grand final. So then you can preserve the injuries and 100%. You can maybe be announced more physical. You're still not going to want an injury that curtails an entire preseason. You don't want that injury in on a piss takey game at the end. But you're pretty close at that point. Like it's safer than ever at that exact time slot.
It's perfect. And look, yes, I'm playing in a grand final. I don't get to play in the State of Origin game. That's okay. I'm still a gun. I'll
take a grand final any day of the week, right?
They take the grand final over the State of Origin game. But if I can't be in the grand final, if I'm good enough, I'll probably get picked for the Allies or Victoria or something like that.
There we go.
All right, slightly different, Paul. This is kind of affecting the fans' enjoyment of the game, possibly. The score review system. Every time was it touched? Did it hit the post? It slows the game down by a little bit. It personally doesn't worry me heaps, but I just worry about where this is going over time. Are we going to bring in more of this stuff? Is it going to get quicker? Are we going to look at more score reviews? Are we going to look at other types of reviews. What else is going to slow the game down over time? Do we have a timeout in the middle of a bloody quarter? I don't know. Where are you at with the score review system?
I'm okay with where it's trending because it feels like of late there has been a more mindful response to how long it has taken in the past. So I think they're kind of on the right track there. There's a wait and see component to the whole thing. I don't want to see it blowed out at all, but I feel like especially kind of the back end, or I might say 2023 more broadly, because I don't want to get too specific, I guess.
Cool.
But I feel like in 2023 there was a priority placed upon getting that done. In the same way that I think about the cricket, for example, and there's a referral for an LBW or whatever the case happens to be, and you already hear the person who's on. Now, cricket, it takes longer to get the decision because there's so many different ways you can get out and things you need to check. But when that time comes and the referral occurs, you already hear the third umpire say, front foot's okay, take me straight to this. Like the ball is rolling already. They've already kind of gotten going.
Right. Cricket's slow enough anyway that it's like it doesn't affect the viewer. It doesn't affect how you consume the game. It's already bloody slow.
But like the point being, like in that instance, they are already proactively checking this thing.
Exactly.
So that's already good to go. Now let's check the stuff that you've actually referred it to me for in the first place. And I feel like there's opportunities that, like, if it's a set shot on goal, you should be already ready to check it.
Get ready, guys. Get everyone.
Here we go. This thing's coming.
It's coming, guys.
You should have the cameras already set there. You should already start to eyeball that, so that in the instance that there's some doubt, you're ready to render a judgment.
I should have
rolled the ball's bouncing around near the line. Like, as soon as that ball enters the forward 50, the camera should just lock onto that part of the ground. You don't worry about the head high thing or whatever that's going on now, if that even happens. Because usually when the ball's close to 50, people aren't too worried about beating the stuffing out of each other. Hone in the goal line and make sure you're ready to go, because that's where the issue's going to be. Now, of course, there's always the possibility that the call it's focused on, touched off the boot or something like that. But you've got the cameras that are still focused on that. It's just you focus on the goal line, because that's most likely where the issue's going to be. And then if it turns out the question mark is around I think you cover 75% of the contentious calls because you're prepared.
Yep.
It's all about preparedness.
I agree. I should have had this on the questions list, Paul, and I do go off track a little bit, but what happens if they had a little hidden bunker behind the goals where a second goal umpire just pops out when someone's having a set shot at goal, and it's like, the little mini-me version of a goal umpire, and he looks after one goalpost and the other guy looks at, like we've seen that in the Wizard Cup or the Ansett Cup a little bit. I'm being silly, but do you like the idea of two goal umpires for set shots, or is it, no? Let's just leave it to the people in the arc, let them sort it out.
I don't mind the idea of two goal umpires. Like, why have that one umpire scurrying across and risking making the wrong call? Like, have two, and one person is the one who always makes drops the gesture. But
hang on. I think it's more like a boom boom, like
yeah.
Anyway. Please comment down below who did it better. Keep going, Paul.
Oh well, I mean, I flipped the camera off, so. So yeah, I think there's some pretty easy arrangements you can have there to make it more efficient. It's just there's the traditional aspect to that people don't want to necessarily change. I think it was hard enough for some people as it was to lose the giant baggy white attire in favor of colors.
Bring it back.
So I wouldn't mind it, because I feel like you're making it easier for the goal umpires if they've only got to cover one half of the sticks anyway.
It's the goal line ones. They're hard ones.
It's the goal line one that then, yeah. So I don't know. There's a few different ways you can spin it, but certainly a more proactive response from what's going on in the arc would speed things up.
Just get a little goal umpire and sort of hold him up in the air. Just someone holding a couple of ropes, and he's hovering above the goal line.
Well, I saw a report the other day that they're really starting to look into this, like goal line tech with the little sensors inside the ball and that sort of stuff. So
yeah. That's the obvious.
I mean, the whole question mark around that in the first place was around kind of ensuring that the actual ball wasn't weighing more or unbalanced or any of those sort of things. And if they feel like they've got that right, then that might alleviate a lot of the issues as well. If it hits the post, you're going to get a Snicko style ping or something like that.
Yep. No, bring it in. Definitely bring it in. All right. What do you watch games that don't involve Geelong? I'm sure you do. But how much footy do you consume? Young family, as we know. But how much time do you spend watching other footy? Is it a Friday night ritual for you? Soon to be maybe a Thursday night ritual in front of the tally when the footy's on. Is it in the background, or is it like, hang on, I can't push it too much. Footy's not everything. I've got to let the other members of the family choose a show every now and then. Where's your level of footy consumption at, or where would you like it to be at?
I guess it's not necessarily. I mean, outside of Geelong, there's nothing overly predictable to it. Like if there's a really enticing matchup of a Friday, Saturday night, then I'm going to be trying to find a way to check it out.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you touched on it yourself, like young family, want to make sure I spend time. Well, the kids are in bed, but want to spend time with my wife. Or, I mean, people know full well. Again, in the background for anyone watching the video version, I've got all my game stuff that I do as well. So I could be spinning plates in that space as well. There might be some footy related content looking to make, whatever case happens to be. Like those things will often take, like if there's something to do in that space, whether it is time with the wife, whether it is game stuff, or whether it's stuff for the hoops, that will take the priority over watching a game, unless it is that grand final replay or these two teams are absolutely on fire at the moment. You're going to want to see this, or we're expecting a big Buddy kicking his 1000th goal style milestone potentially going to come up. Like they might.
Too long.
Well, no, unfortunately it was against us, but we got them back, suckers. So,
you know
like, if there's something that kind of like that's going to attract you to it,
I'll tell you what I like.
That's going to catch me, but it's totally unpredictable for me.
I love sitting back on a Sunday afternoon when Hawthorn's down by like 40 points. And I just love it when the opposition beats up on them. I'll make time for that. I think that's fantastic. I know you make a lot of time for your one-day cricket too, Paul. So that'll often be on in the background as well. How did our mate Maxwell go tonight? I believe he might have batted
120 from 55 balls.
We are recording this episode on the 11th of February. So
absolutely taking the piss out of the West Indies tonight.
He's done pretty well.
The big show.
I like to watch as much footy as I can, mate. I don't watch as much cricket these days as I should, but no, I love a bit of footy. Friday night, definitely. Saturday night, depends what we're doing. It's a give or take a little bit on a Saturday night, I suppose. I don't mind. I'll probably give up the first half, maybe, if I'm doing something, but I don't mind coming home and putting it on if we're out and about. And then Sunday, it's more probably on in the background, or we're doing stuff, but I'm not sitting there from the first game at 1 o'clock till the last game in Perth, Freo versus Bulldogs or something like that.
Yeah, certainly if I've got daylight plans, I'm probably not tuning in outside of maybe flicking open the app every now and then and taking a look at the scores. And if I happen to tune in, it's a bit like what I do with the NBA, actually. If I tune in and scores are tight and there's a couple minutes to go, suddenly the AFL app is on, or I'm turning on KO or whatever the case happens to be to see how the last 2 minutes plays out or whatever the case is. But otherwise, during daylight hours, unless it's a Cats game, there's not necessarily a lot of interest, which I guess is an interesting one considering all of our conversations with Phoenix on the show recently, where obviously those daylight hours, that 2:10 game is kind of the one that him and other players love and cherish.
He loves daytime footy, doesn't he? Goodness me.
He does, and so do I actually. Like if you get the right game at 2:10, it's an absolute cracker. I think about some of those Geelong and Hawthorn games, like early days of the Kennett curse. And they were absolutely unreal. I think of Jimmy Bartell with his behind to win it, and all those they are unbelievable games. And I think they might have, lost a little bit actually at nighttime. I think there's something about the daytime aspect of those. But then again, I also think about Tom Hawkins kicking a goal after the siren against the Hawks, and I can't imagine that during the daylight. So it might just be purely the moment that that's how it is, and I couldn't imagine it any other way. I don't know. But daylight hours can be a little bit harder for me. I want to be a good dad. Want to be a good husband.
The right thing. You might just pull your phone out every now and then. What was
have a cheeky look.
Oh shit. Essendon. They're not going to make the top four. Can't believe it.
Just checking the time.
What's
Paul,
the time?
You've been checking the time for the last 5 minutes. I don't know. I haven't looked yet.
I'm checking the weather. Oh, it's 28 degrees. Okay. Interesting.
Give me like 2 minutes to really examine this.
Oh, hang on, there's a change coming through. All right.
We're the worst.
Here's an interesting one, and I hate seeing this on the seeing the advertisements on the TV. Sports betting in AFL footy. Well, it's not all sports really, but I don't have an issue with betting itself, me personally, but I really don't like the fact that it's just taken over the coverage. It's like, who's going to win? Well, Sportsbet says blah blah blah. I don't care. That's
Like,
great.
who cares
if you
what
want to have a
Sportsbet
bet,
say?
but and again, please don't misinterpret me. I'll have a bet every now and then, but I just don't want to see it all over the TV, especially during hours where kids might be watching, or especially, even not when I say kids, I'm talking about 22-year-olds as well. It's like, can we have it? Can we just limit the amount of? I know there's a lot of money in gambling. Clearly, there is. I'm not Einstein by saying that, but I would love it if we can just maybe push that to the side. But it's so much money, and I don't think the AFL likes to say no to money, especially gambling money.
Look, some of the clubs do. I mean, Geelong's one of those clubs. It's like, we're not going to have it on our premises. Of course, they can't say no to what the AFL's doing there in terms of, your Bet 365s and your sports bets and all those sorts of different outlets that are taking stuff about the game, and nor can the club actually control that either. You can bet about people can place a bet over 2 flies crawling up a wall at this point. So, and there's plenty of them here if we want to start taking some bets. Like they're tearing this joint up tonight. So, I'm a bit like you. I don't love it, and I'm not even the sort to throw money down at all. Really, it's just not my thing. Also, times are tough at the moment with interest rates and stuff, so I don't have money to throw around either. But like,
some people are. It seems to be doing quite well, these betting agencies. But
there's whales. There's people who just got cashed up and they'll just throw the kitchen sink at it, and always with the promise that, or the hope, sorry, I should say, that they'll ultimately win more than they lose. And we know plenty of people that hasn't worked out for. So it sucks. I wish there was a way that we could kind of make it completely pure. That's not going to be the case. So I just, to your point, I just wish it wasn't plastered all over the TV when you watch it.
Have a bet if you want. If that helps you enjoy the game, great, fantastic. If having a beer helps you enjoy the game, fantastic. But do we really need to just normalize this sort of stuff for everyone, especially the young kids growing up? I guess you and I are parents, and we probably see things a little bit differently from that way. Maybe I didn't see it that way when I was a 20-year-old, who knows, or 15-year-old. But anyway, that's how I feel on it now.
I mean, look, I was of the same mind back then, well before kids, but that's because I just didn't really have the gambling itch at all. Like I join in on like your Melbourne Cup day, sort of pots just throw in 5 and everyone gets a horse, and like that's more of you're playing a game with people rather than like it's a formal bet of sorts. I say that, and like for the first time ever, my wife and I were having little conversations about the lotto recently. Like, oh, hang on, that's like $200 million. What if we're lucky enough to win that? That's a bet. At the end of the day,
clearly you didn't win because you're still fronting up to do your duties on the Hoops crew show. So I'm glad you're still with us. Unless you're just keeping it a secret for 12 months. That's what they say.
I'll be keeping that pretty low key.
Don't buy that Lamborghini just yet. Save it for a little bit. Now, this is a question.
Roll into the school canteen and buy the shop.
The next couple of questions are your area, Paul. So we're expecting some really good answers here. Should the AFL get very serious about esports?
I remember when Essendon had themselves an esports team a couple of years ago, and Brian Taylor took the piss pretty severely on the TV coverage.
Keep talking. I'm going to go kill a spider. Keep talking.
Oh, okay. So good. I'm not the only one that's being invaded by pests tonight. I remember when Brian Taylor was kind of having a bit of a crack at him, and I genuinely thought that was a pretty dodgy, unfair, and harsh way to treat anyone.
Slippery.
It wasn't great. I don't know that esports is the thing for the AFL. I don't know. Like it doesn't feel compatible, and I haven't looked out across the EPL or the NBA and seen elite players at that level competing in esports either. I'm not seeing integrations in that sort of way either. And that includes like your NBA 2Ks or your FIFA games, or I guess EA Sports FC as it is now. I'm not like players themselves aren't there participating. They might be there as like a spokesperson or whatever, like part of an ad for the whole thing. You cover athlete from the game or whatever it happens to be. So I guess if we think about AFL 23 last year, Christian Pachaka, Darcy Versio, I think that was it was just the two of them.
Yep,
We'd never know because we never got sent the code that we were promised. Thanks, Big Ant. And I was expecting to get 2, and I got none of them.
Still haven't got it.
No, because the game was anyway.
So if you're getting, if AFL rings you up, send you an email tomorrow, Paul, and says, look, we're starting this e-comp league. You're pretty big in this YouTubing space. Everyone knows you as
anyway.
YouTuber. You're the guy that people stop on the street. And we hear that you're really big into gaming as well. You seem like the perfect fit. We want you to captain Geelong's team, and we want you to be the cover athlete, Paul. Are you going to say no to that?
Let me just get my best pose going.
What is your best pose for the cover?
Just go get that one looking out in the distance. I'm certainly not going to be a competitor because esports aren't my scene in the slightest. Give me a nice single player experience where I can just be me in the world and not have to deal with stupidity. It'd be good. But anyway, checking that at the door. I mean, look, your point is not necessarily like if they decide to have a crack at it. Like I am this unicorn of sorts, really, who's kind of straddling both spaces and kind of getting pretty deep into both spaces. So, like, I get. Sorry, Ben, if it comes up, who knows what'll happen.
That's all right. I'll give you leave.
No, I was written into the contract that I can still do hoop show stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's something the AFL needs to pursue. But what happens with the future of AFL video games and whether because that is a thing, like the esports leagues around NBA 2K and esports leagues around FIFA, EA Sports FC, like these are things. So the AFL could, if the games were any good, could commit to that and get that going. And it will never be the scale of a 2K or an EA Sports FC just because the sport is nowhere near the same size in terms of its reach and pull. But you could have national competitions. That could work.
Here's one. Maybe that my budget's a little bit low, but let's say, Paul, I did win Powerball last Thursday and I did win the 200 million. And let's just say that's heaps to actually throw at the AFL. Okay, guys, I love my computer games. I love my footy. I want you to create an AFL 2K game. And let's just say that's enough money, Paul, just for the sake of this next question. What would you want the game to look like? Clearly, you want it to be a step up from the
AFL 23.
AFL 23, goodness me. So this is like, okay, so it's not just gameplay. There's everything else that goes into it, like, draft night and all this other stuff and, clubland, going and do your weight session, shifting some tin, chatting with the boys, all this kind of stuff. What would you like to see in a game like that?
I mean, I guess before I really weigh into that side, if I was talking about like what's the AFL game that I want to see a more arcadey sort of experience. I'm not saying we necessarily go the full way that say Footy Bash is, though Footy Bash very cool, and I'm sure we'll find ourselves talking about Footy Bash over the course of 2024 as that game gets closer to release, whenever that is. I'll probably need to get in touch with the team actually. But
a bit like NBA Jam, if you're not familiar with
that NBA Jam sort of model for anyone who's unfamiliar with those, or NBA 2K Playgrounds is kind of the modern day take on that. I think that is better suited to just the nature of AFL because I genuinely think AFL is a very, very hard game to replicate in a video game. Now, obviously, we've not necessarily had the greatest teams in the world working on it. You haven't had the billion-dollar corporate companies of EA or Take-Two working on an AFL game. I guess EA did some of the old ones like AFL 99 and stuff, but it was a different time back then, and certainly the amount of money in the industry is nothing compared to what it is now. I mean, a video game these days, like a big budget one, will cost $200-300 million. So there's your Powerball money gone. So yeah, I mean, look, if we were to get that full experience, I would want to see just like what we get from a my career mode from a 2K. I'd want to see the training sessions. I'd want to see the sponsorship sort of things. I want to be able to be maybe a list manager instead and be kind of wheeling and dealing and trying to get, Harley Reid from the Eagles onto the Cats list and bring, go up to Brisbane and speak to the Ashcrofts and bring Will down and all those, that sort of stuff on top, lay at the top of the core moment to moment gameplay. But that is the core moment to moment is the hardest bit for them, for whether it's Big Ant, whether it's Wicked Witch, as teams that have done it before, or I think anyone else really. FIFA, the FIFA pitch is, it's not as big as an AFL ground, but it's a big pitch, but the ball moves so much slower that you can work with that. You can make it work for a video game. This enormous ground that you can't fit the entirety of because it's too small on your screen can be traversed in 10 seconds sometimes,
I completely
and can
agree.
be in a video game for sure. So it makes it really, really hard for the players who are off camera. It's such a hard thing to get right. And I think it's the constant challenge that the AFL video games will always face. And that's why I'd rather that more arcadey, footy bash, NBA Jam inspired sort of model where it's not taking itself too seriously. It could be great. People, go check out Footy Bash.
Go check out Footy. I think you're right. Let's just have it on a smaller scale. AFL is just too hard as a game, I think, to have it on this big ground. It takes forever to get from end to end. It's not going to be as exciting as smaller sized arena doing it something like that. I'd love to see, part of that career mode, I'd love to see players get invited onto YouTube shows and things like that. It's like, you get a little speech bubble comes out in the bottom. Oh, you've been invited to go on the Hoops crew for an interview with Paul James. Wouldn't that be great? And you
career highlight for some of these.
Yes,
folks.
no, I want to do that. Or no, these guys are hacks. Why would I want to go on a show like that? So yeah, that's something interesting. Career mode. Maybe that's the way to go. I could see
if they're going to do it, they've got to be ultra realistic, because let's not lose sight of the fact that when Brian came on behind the play, that's what really made him as an AFL player. So
exactly. That's one of the scenarios.
If the Hoop Show opportunity appears, Hoops Crew opportunity appears, that's any video game player has to say yes, because it's really going to be additive to that player.
Exactly right. You just got to look at how it's gone with others. All right. I'm doing some great segues here. Should players be more accessible to the media? And I'm going to keep you on track here with time, because this one's blowing out a little bit. It sounds like the AFL is bringing this a little bit on. I must have written these questions a couple of months ago. Yeah, you wrote
it before.
There you go. So it does sound like the AFL is telling players you need to be much more accessible now.
Minimum an hour a week, I think
something
it is.
Like that, yeah. Unless you got injured or something like that. I think there's a
Lots of time for a behind the play episode. Lots
of time to come on. There's plenty of quiet time. By all means, get in touch. We'll get you on, even if it's for a few minutes. That's fine. Let's jump to the last question though and wrap it up. Should we bring back the curtain raiser, the game before the game? What do you reckon?
Absolutely.
Bring it back. Well, is it the reserves? Is it the twos? Is it some other, I don't know, Scotch College versus Xavier? Is it literally the reserves comp that plays as the curtain raiser?
I don't see why not. Now I know, there's how many teams are in the VFL these days? It's like 20 plus. So you're going to get some instances where, Southport is playing against an AFL's reserve team. And so it doesn't always work, but we're seeing more and more often these days that, the Geelong and Richmond VFL teams will play the same weekend that the Geelong and Richmond men's teams will play. Seniors teams will play. So why not use that as the curtain raiser, for example?
As long as you can get
it also helps with some of that speculation. Someone that doesn't play, you don't see him play for the VFL team on the Saturday. Like, oh, hang on, they must be getting a call up. It takes away some of that sort of some of that sort of rubbish too, because you could drop a whole bunch of people during the game or whatever. It just keeps it cleaner.
I think so. Look, I'd love to see a bit of VFL come back again. I think that'll be fantastic every day. The only thing I don't like is that it's like the fourth quarter ends and it's like an hour before the bounce. It's like, I want to watch the game, but do I want to get there that early that I've got to sit there for an hour? I know, but it's a lot of time. It's a massive commitment, and hats off to you if you go and do that when we occasionally get a curtain raiser. Paul, that's the end of the summer series episodes. We have come to the end. It's been a long journey. Big, huge thank you to yourself, but more importantly, thank you to Phoenix Foster for giving up his time for about 3 or 4 episodes there. We loved having him on. Good fun there. If you haven't already checked out those episodes and other episodes, please make sure you go back through the archives and have a look. There's some good chat there. It's good summer chat. We haven't talked about it, but we'll probably do something similar this time around next year as well. It's been fun just to sort of talk about footy. We'll get heaps into Cats footy very, very soon. Not too far away now, but we're very biased on this show about Geelong, and we've allowed ourselves to talk a little bit more outside of the Geelong sphere for this. But it's been fun, so thank you, Paul, for that. Now, I think we've got the Chaps Chat Cats on Monday night, so that usually drops about 9:30, 10 o'clock. So make sure you check out that show. We do have, at the time this one goes live, we've got I think the Cats are playing in a match sim against Carlton, so we'll probably have a post-game live show that night of that game, and for everyone's information, a post-game live show after every Cats game in 2024. So make sure you join us. That'll be live. Clearly, the title says post-game live.
Yeah.
That'll be within an hour or two or something like that of the game finishing. If you're at the game, gives you time to get home or whatever, or gives me time to get home and turn the computer on, all that sort of stuff. So anyway, thank you, Paul. Thank you, everyone who's watching or listening. No, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all those socials down the bottom there: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Spotify, Patreon. We love Patreon supporters. Thank you if you are a Patreon supporter. We love all the support you give us, and we're on podcasts as well. So check us out there. That's it for us. Thank you again, Paul. Go Cats.
All right, mate. Thanks.
We'll see you on the next one, everyone. Take care.
See you guys.